current ITES space, what we talk about, it is basically the collective intelligence of our people that leads to business success.
Employee satisfaction is absolutely necessary.
That goes without saying. It is extremely important to have a strong marriage between the human element and the technology element. People forget what you say, people will forget what you do, but people don't forget how you make them feel.
Has that alarm ever gone off in a maybe tense meeting? Or maybe
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of HR Today Leadership Insight, which is a podcast series hosted by HR Today, where we bring to you some of the most impactful and eminent personalities leading the corporate world and the voices that shape the future of work. Today, we are delighted and honored to have with us Ms. Ruchi Mago, who is a global HR leader with nearly 2 decades of experience across talent acquisition, shared services, and employee experience. Currently leading HR and employee experience at Orange Business India, she has successfully driven people strategies across APAC, MEA, Europe, and the Americas. In this episode today, we explore the theme of embracing the quotients of the future, a refreshing leadership lens that goes beyond IQ and EQ quotients. Ma'am, so how are you feeling today?
Very good. You make me sound very old when you said 2 decades,
Not at all.
but very pleased to be here and happy to share my insights.
Definitely, ma'am. Ma'am, so let's begin with a very basic question. What exactly are quotients?
Okay, that's a good one. So that takes me to a bit of a theoretical thing. To me, and I'll say that in a layman word, right? To me, quotient is more about the ability or a strength that a person has. And why am I calling it a quotient? More because it is a measure to look at the strengths and an ability of a person in different perspective and different domain.
Right. So, ma'am, what has led you, or maybe what inspired you to go beyond the traditional IQ, which is intelligence, and EQ, which is the emotional quotient? What is the need that arose to explore more quotients?
That's a very good question as well. So I think in the changing world, everything is changing really, really fast, right? IQ used to be something which we have always talked about. I mean, when even I was a child in my school and college days, IQ was used quite a lot. Not that I'm saying it is no more relevant, it is relevant. Then is the time when we talked more about emotional quotient, we talked so much about social quotient. We also talk about X quotient, which is more about either an execution quotient or few people call it an experience quotient. So those are the words that changed and came in our vocabulary as we moved along. So to answer your question, what is changing? I think it is the current environment and it is the need of the hour that is making us rethink the current quotients that we have.
Right, ma'am. You have led high impact HR functions across geographies. How has your experience shaped your belief that people are not just assets, but the true core of business strategy?
Absolutely. So people are definitely the core to any business, right? And especially if I talk from our own perspective, they sit at the heart of the strategy for sure. Coming to why we say so is at the end, in the services industry or in the current ITES space, what we talk about, it is basically the collective intelligence of our people that leads to business success, and that is a key mantra. And we all talk about customer experience, and we talk about candidate experience and manager experience. To me, it's all about human experience. And until unless your employees are happy, then only you will have happy customers, so as to say. So when we talk about the entire financials, I think to have a very solid financial parameters, we have to really first take care of the people who are the basic foundation or the fundamental part of the entire equation for business success.
Right. So you mean that employee satisfaction is absolutely necessary?
That goes without saying.
Yes. Okay. So, ma'am, let us begin with the human quotient.
Mm.
What does it mean to lead with HQ, and why is it foundational to future ready leadership?
Okay. So, to me, human quotient is a very wider aspect, right? And I just touched a bit about the human experience. So, human quotient is basically embracing your starting from the overall ecosystem. It is your customers, it is the partners, it is the entire employees, it is candidates, it is stakeholders. So, everything comes in the human quotient. In the current aspect wherein AI is changing the world,
Right.
and change is the only thing which is there, it is extremely important to have a strong marriage between the human element and the technology element.
Right.
And there comes human quotient being extremely important, because yes, you will have technology and you will have all the means to look at the data and the digital part of the equation, but what will be a key differentiator is going to be your HQ or the human aspect.
Right.
So, a lot of skills, and we keep reading about how AI is going to shape jobs and shape skills and future of careers. But what will still remain very relevant is the people aspect, or is the human skill aspect, which cannot be done by AI, right? So that is how the human quotient becomes extremely important. And to me, it is the knack of dealing with people. It's not only what you do, but it is also how you do.
Exactly.
And people
Yes.
forget, and that's not my line, but yeah, people forget what you say, people will forget what you do, but people don't forget how you make them feel. So I think that is a very, very extremely important thing, and that makes human quotient very important.
Well said, ma'am. And talking about AI and the advent of technology, with a lot of AI being integrated into HR and a lot of business activities, do you think, ma'am, that maybe we as a community of humans are losing touch with that emotional and the human part, and maybe relying too much on the AI part?
Yes and no. So I think at times we forget about it, but if I talk from a leader's perspective, they all are aware that human element is extremely important, right? So AI is the enabler, but at the end, the differentiator is the people, as we just talked about, right? So the close blend, people who will be successful is when they can take these two pieces of the puzzle and make a masterpiece out of it. So emotions are important, and definitely I don't think people are forgetting about it, but at times we just have to remind people that with this entire thing of the digital transformation that we are seeing, we can't ignore this piece of the equation.
Yes.
And we have to really put a good amount of emphasis when it comes to empathy, when it comes to emotions, when it comes to decision making with that people perspective, right? Because AI will give you the data, AI can do a lot of work, and that's our enabler to make decisions fast, but decision making is based on the people acumen, which is very much needed.
Right, ma'am. As a Gen Z person, as a part of the Gen Z workforce, do you think that Gen Z people are more AI reliant, and maybe the non-Gen Z people, I wouldn't call it older, but I would call it the non-Gen Z people, are they more in touch with the emotional side because they have not been using AI as much? So do you think that is a differentiator? Maybe is there some difference in the two workforces?
There are a lot of differences in the two workforces, right? And I think it's a very good aspect to have that diversity,
Right.
when it comes to different generation, because each generation gets their own flavor on the table, right? And that is what is needed. I would say that right now, if I talk about mid-level professionals, 35 to 45 years of age, there is a lot of focus that they are also reflecting and saying we need to upskill to be there, to be relevant for future, right? So from that angle, adoption to technology is there. Now the rate of adoption of technology might differ, but at least I am seeing a lot of openness for the mid-level career professional people to look at AI as an enabler. And success breeds success. You see the increase in productivity. You see the increase in things that you can do. And with a lot of focus on cost optimization, nobody can hide away from AI at all. So, I mean, couple of companies do a lot of reverse mentoring as well, which is
Okay.
different generation mentoring. We do reverse gender mentoring as well, but it is also about looking at a different perspective and then coming up to speed and embracing the good part which is there for one generation and the other.
This gives me the perfect segue to the next question that we would be discussing is the adaptability quotient.
Mm-hmm.
As you just said, ma'am, reverse mentoring.
Mm.
Is it somewhere related to the adaptability quotient? Are the maybe the mid-aged workforce able to adapt to the reverse mentoring? And how is it maybe related to the adaptability quotient?
Yeah. So adaptability quotient, the way I define is the eagerness to adapt
Right.
to the change, right? So as we said, change is going to be there everywhere. How keen I am to take that wagon and be an ambassador to change versus being on the fence and seeing, do I go, do I not go, do I take, I'm skeptical, da da da, all that stuff. So I think adaptability quotient is also looking at the half glass full and also looking at how can I make a difference in others' lives by being an influencer or a change ambassador, so as to say. Coming to what you said, I think adaptability quotient sits very well with the reverse mentoring, but it is also a lot about mindset as well, right? At times we have to do good amount of conversations with the managers to tell them why, because at the end, okay, yeah, we all have to adapt, like sounds pretty cliche, right? I mean, obviously we all have to adapt, there's nothing about it. What is in it for me, what is in it for my team, and what it is if I don't do it, right? So what is the risk or what is the opportunity that I'm going to lose if I don't do it? I think that kind of an emotional connect is needed, and then your adaptability quotient will be much more higher as compared to in a normal linear progression state, so as to say.
Ma'am, could you just maybe highlight a few risks that you said if people don't necessarily adapt to the changing environment or the changing business atmosphere?
That's a good one. I mean, there are a lot of risks. Right. So I have to really think what are the top two or three I talk about. But in terms of risks, it's all about at the end, if a business model is changing. Let me take an example of a transformation that happens within teams, right? So there is a business model that's going to change. Now, if I am an individual and I still want to stick to the way I used to do work, I'm going to miss that opportunity of the difference that I can create to the organization success. So that's first risk. So if I'm not adapting, then okay, I'm still in my own cloud and I'm saying, okay, no, what was happening earlier makes more sense. I'm losing on an opportunity for a bigger success, which could have been there. The second risk is all about creating your credibility as a leader as well. At the end, I think what we are looking at is we need leaders who can influence. We don't need leaders who will command. Gone are the days when you had a very controlling environment. You need more influencers. Now, if the team sees that my leader is again in their old school of thought and is not ready to change and learn, then I'm setting an example for the team, which is not going to help me win collectively. So that's another risk, because you not adapting is going to have a ripple effect on the other team members that you are leading as well.
We now move on to the purpose quotient. So, as I see it, there is purpose, there are perks, and there is progress. Right? So, which of these three resonate more with the workforce? Is it the purpose? Is it the progress in a company or in a job profile? Or is it the perks, the working hours, maybe 5 days or 4 days in a working day? What do you think is the primary requirement for the workforce now these days?
A very good question. With the workforce changing and different generations working on it, there's a lot of focus on personalization.
Okay.
What would resonate with me might not resonate with you and might not resonate with another person. So, the three things that you talked about, perks, progress, and purpose, all are very important, and that goes without saying. To me, if I have to pick one out of them, so perks has always been there, right? You talk about with anyone, people will talk about the total rewards, they will talk about salary. So that definitely remains an important aspect today. Coming to progress is picking up in terms of skills being the new currency. A lot of focus is on changing careers. I mean, people at my generation used to change on an average 5 jobs. People in your generation are changing 5 careers. Careers from a perspective of, okay, if I'm in HR, I will not retire from HR, right? So people want to change careers, and as a result, progress is taking an important seat on the table of company strategy. A lot of focus on skilling, upskilling, reskilling, new skilling. So that's important.
Okay.
What out of the three I like the most is purpose, and I'll tell you why. I think after COVID and with the new generation, the sense of purpose is extremely important for an individual to select which company I would like to work on. So if I have 3 offers, or if a Gen Z, let's talk about a Gen Z, if they have 3 offers and they have to equate between perks, okay, I'll do a comparison, the progress, okay, what is my career runway and how can I evolve on different roles is an important one. But what really connects with them emotionally is, does the organization that I'm going to join, their values and their culture resonates with my principles, my culture, and my values? Now, culture is a big word, so I'll park it, but I'll talk more about values, right? So it's extremely important that to us and to a lot of people in the Gen Z as well, am I creating an impact for the society, for a bigger ecosystem rather than me doing a job? Gone are the days wherein people were connected with a company only for a job or for an employment. Now it is employability, one, which comes to your progress. How are the skills that I'm getting in this company will make me employable in future in another company? So that is progress. The other one is purpose. How am I creating an impact to the bigger society, to a bigger ecosystem? And that is the sense of purpose that I want to have in my job, in my role, because to me, now it is not only the paycheck that is coming, and job is not a job. Job is much more bigger. With the work life integration that has happened, it's no more 9 to 5. It is all about, it's a very close blend that has happened between the work life and the professional life. So how do I create that sense of purpose is extremely important.
Right, ma'am. As you said, the work and life are closely knit and have blend together. And being in a purposeful job leads to, I believe, satisfaction, right? So how can an employee make sure while joining a company, while joining a corporate, know that it will the company's values will align with its values, with the person's values? How can somebody be sure?
Okay, so here, and that's what I tell a lot of candidates and a lot of MBA students as well, right? Which is about preparation. So when you are going to apply for an organization, don't only look at the job description and what is mentioned there. Do a very, very thorough analysis on the company. In today's world, with so much available on social media and on internet, you can do a thorough analysis of what kind of things the company is involved in. Definitely, you'll go to the career page, that goes without saying. You will read the values, the blogs, and all that stuff. Follow the LinkedIn page, Insta, other platforms which are there. But really look for what are the proof points of things that the organization is doing which resonates with me as an individual. Because at the end, yes, every organization is going to talk about profit and the financial terms, but there is also a very strong ecosystem when it comes to the ESG or the CSR, or even how do we connect to the 17 SDGs that are there. Right. So those are few areas which will make me understand how that organization is, making an impact to the society, how much that organization is a caring employer. So I think there's a lot that goes, which is to be read between the lines. And that is a very important thing that anyone who's applying for a job should look at and do a bit of R&D, talk to people, and get a better pulse on that part.
Right. Don't you think ESG and maybe CSR these days are, I don't know, I could be wrong, I could be very naive when I say this, are marketing tactics? Maybe to have some goodwill with the people?
I think it depends upon how it is done. So I think what you are saying might be right for few, but from my experience, at least I have been blessed enough that there's a lot of passion that a lot of people in the organization have for a particular purpose or a particular initiative. Yes, you can do a number of things and show, okay, I did 200 projects and all linked to my 17 SDGs. Okay, if it is a paper exercise, I don't want to comment, but a lot of organizations also have strong communities wherein you have people working together who want to do something for they have a passion around that, and they really want to do something for a bigger purpose. And if that heart is there in that initiative, I think that is how it will make an impact as well.
Well said, ma'am. Truly said. Thank you so much. In this fast evolving skills economy, we talk about the learning quotient now. So how do managers and people in the upper management make sure that their workforce or their employees are still curious, are maybe adaptable to learn more? How do we make sure, and how does the upper management make sure that they can still instill and upskill their employees?
So learning quotient is definitely important, and I think at every age of our career, we really need to focus a lot on what we are learning. A couple of things here. I think learning is a responsibility which is dual. I mean, organization will give a lot of opportunities to grow, to learn, to upskill, to reskill, to new skill. But at the same time, I think it is the employee who is on the driver's seat here. And it is a lot of self-driven learning as well that has to be there. So I as an individual needs to be convinced that I need to learn because this will help me in XYZ over the years, right? So that commitment and that belief has to be extremely strong. In terms of talking from an organization perspective, I think there's a lot which is done in most of the organization. Skills, you will see one of the areas which are there in all the HR strategies, visions, missions that we talk about in the corporates. The way different organizations look at, and if I talk from my experience, we look at a 70-20-10 approach of learning, i.e., 70% is on the job learning, 20% is learning through peers, learning through people around me, and the 10% is actual, so-called training, whether it is, the instructor-led workshops or self-learning and things around that. It is extremely important that managers also bring in the elements of 70-20-10 on the job, and also get a lot of opportunities for the employees to look at such platforms. Example I will give you here, right? We have a lot of employee resource groups or communities in the organization. They are on voluntary basis, based upon the passion that you have, you contribute to that community. Now there's a lot that you learn during that community work as well. So whether it is a community around automation or AI, or it is a community around engagement, or it is something around ESG, you are learning n number of things around project management. You are learning n number of things around dealing with people. You are learning a lot of things about matrix organization, wherein you have to get work done by others who are not reporting into you. And that's much more tougher, right? So that's one example. So managers will be encouraging people to be a part of those communities, because that's where your entire 20% comes about. A lot of focus is on coaching and mentoring and reverse mentoring as well, wherein through experiences we learn a lot. So through exchange of dialogue, we learn a lot as well. So that's another one. The 70% on the job is based upon the kind of projects, the kind of complex situations that we are involved in, and that becomes a learning experience as well. So I think it needs to be more of an integrated model. It has to be more in the DNA rather than putting learning and development as one vertical, which is in a silo, and they do their trainings and workshops. That has gone. That won't work now. So the very strong integration at a ground level needs to be done when it comes to learning.
Now we come to the conscious quotient, which brings mindfulness into the leadership conversation. How do you think leaders can cultivate CQ, especially in high pressure situations?
That's difficult one. I'll definitely have to say that, right? We are talking a lot about these days on conscious leadership. We are talking a lot about being mindful. There's good amount of focus on, I mean, there are good training programs for leaders as well, which talks really about being present, being mindful, things around, meditations, and a lot about connecting with the inner self. What is the purpose of my life? What am I doing here? And all those things, right? So conscious quotient is more about a leader being conscious that there will be a lot of stress elements in our normal day to day, right? We are not going to lead with chaos. We will take a pause, we will take a deep breath, and then we will reflect, and then we will act. So it's not about, speed. Conscious leadership does not talk so much about a conscious quotient, does not talk so much about speed of implementation, wherein I see a situation, I jump, and then it is act. It is also about taking a pause. It is also about being mindful. It is also about cleaning the clutter around us and then reacting versus acting.
So, reactions which are volatile, which are maybe difficult to control, how would you, ma'am, maybe give some tips to be mindful, to take that pause? Because in the heat of the moment, as a human being, I find it personally difficult to maybe just take a pause. Because I myself can be a little volatile when it comes to reacting. So how do I personally be mindful of the situation? No, wait, let me take a minute. I should not react immediately. So how do I do that, ma'am?
So I think here practice is needed, and it won't happen with a magic wand wherein, okay, I tell myself, okay, this is something that I need to improve and I'll improve immediately. It's more about reminding yourself. It's more about practicing, and then it becomes a habit, so as to say. But the first part is, I think we also need to understand that this is an area that needs focus and attention. I think it is not so much talked about right now because everybody talks about speed and acting. And, yes, there is a issue and we need to manage it. Absolutely. But at the same time, taking a pause. So a couple of tips, if I have to give you, not that I'm an expert in this. I wish I become an expert very soon on this. But I would say that at least what I do. So every 2 hours, I would have a reminder in my phone, which tells me halt for 10 seconds. And, okay, just stop wherever you are. And 10 seconds is not much, right? So it's more of a reminder to tell myself that for 10 seconds, I will be just quiet. It's okay to take a pause. It is absolutely fine. A lot of times, I think it is also about reminding ourselves what is the end objective that I want to achieve. So suppose it's a difficult situation that we are managing at workplace and the other person is being a bit aggressive, so as to say. Now, if the one person is getting aggressive and the other one also becomes aggressive, then the situation will be worse, right? So it's about the maturity that you have that, okay, I hear, I listen, maybe something is bothering you. I will not react. I will only respond once I understand the entire situation. So I think that patience element is something that we need to remind ourselves. And also, what is the end outcome I'm going to achieve by the reaction that I will give in a particular situation. So if we think one way forward, I think we can be much more conscious.
Has that alarm ever gone off in a maybe tensed meeting? Or maybe
I don't follow it so much, but at least it's a reminder, okay?
I was just kidding, ma'am. As your experience as a global HR leader, from shared services to transformation, how do these quotients come into play in the actual work life of an employee? And which of these quotients maybe takes precedence over the others?
So I think there are a lot of questions that we talk about, right? I mean, we just touched on a few right now, but there's also something which is called an experience quotient. There's also something which is called an execution quotient. Then we also have social quotient, but we talked about human quotient there. I mean, to me, it is not which one is important over the other. I think all of them are important. For particular situations, one will take a prime seat versus the other, is what I will say. So suppose, but there are few which are fundamentals as well. Like we talked about adaptability quotient, right? We all need to be adaptable. We talked about learning. So learning never stops. I think it needs to be made into our day-to-day rigor, right? How are we learning and different opportunities? When it comes to experience, I mean, from an HR point of view, our team is also called Human Resource and Employee Experience.
Right.
So we really put in a lot of effort on the moments of truth. We also put in a lot of effort on what is the value of the thing that I'm doing in HR, right? And how does it impact the experience of the individuals. So experience quotient is also important. So it will be tough for me to pick one. I think it is based more on the situation. One might take a prime importance over the other, and then we have to just keep changing gears based upon the situation to see which one needs a bit of more focus and the current context.
Makes sense. Well said, ma'am. Ma'am, as you said, being a leader, being a manager, being a director, or being in the upper management, you need to be conscious. You need to have that human element. You need to be emotional. You need to have that adaptability quotient. So these are some of the aspects that we would want in a leader that is maybe leading us. So in this current scenario, what do you think are some of the gaps in the leaderships? And maybe how do you think these quotients can fill these gaps?
Okay, so I think the future of leadership is more about we want leaders who not only act but think. We need leaders who don't control and command, but they really build connections, so as to say. I think we need leaders who can orchestrate versus do things on their own. We need leaders who can be influencers versus being driven by a hierarchy and by the power of their post. So I think the entire model of leadership is evolving. And when it comes to what is key, I would say empathy is an important element, which I did not talk about so much, is a very important aspect of the overall leadership, so as to say.
As you said, people who orchestrate or maybe work together with the team. Are you maybe a believer of servant leadership? Would you be maybe inclined towards servant leadership?
So I'm not a very big fan of any of the leadership jargon, so as to say. So I mean, my mantra when I took over a people management role a couple of years back was treat others the way you want to be treated. So that has been my style. And to me, I think leadership is all about getting the best of the person's ability into the real world, right? So how can you be an enabler? How can you be a person who empowers others? How can you be a person who would act from not from the front but from the back, right? How do you give space to others to flourish, to grow? And we talked about employability, so as to say. So how do you bring in that employability in your team, i.e. they are progressing and they are growing, so as to say. So I think that is what matters more to me when it comes to the style of leadership.
Thank you, ma'am. The final concluding question would be, what is your advice for HR leaders who would maybe want to take this multi-quotient approach to be better leaders? What would your one advice to these leaders?
So my one advice will be that stay curious. That is extremely important to be relevant for future. It is also very important to believe in ourselves and not let the imposter syndrome impact us, or not let the comparisons impact us. I think we have to be the best versions of ourselves.
Right.
So it starts with believing in yourself, and it also starts with how do you create a difference in what you do and how you do. I think that reflection is extremely important as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was lovely speaking with you, and for the powerful insights and the knowledge that you imparted was absolutely wonderful. We now move on to a little fun segment, which is
Okay.
the rapid fire segment.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be a little casual, it is going to be fast, it is going to be fiery.
Okay.
Are we ready, ma'am?
I will be grilled by you, right?
Of course.
Okay. Go ahead.
So we begin the rapid fire. In today's world, ma'am, which question do you think is often ignored and which should not be ignored?
Conscious quotient.
Conscious quotient. One leadership trait that defines future readiness.
Empowerment.
A book or philosophy that shaped your thinking as an HR leader.
Growth Mindset by Carol. I am a very strong believer of growth mindset. I did not talk about so much in our discussion versus a fixed mindset, and how can you learn from your failures and how can you embrace that. So I'm a strong believer of growth mindset.
So I believe that is one book that you would recommend all of us to read.
Yeah.
One word your team would use to describe your leadership style.
Enthusiastic enabler.
In a high change environment, act or reflect. What comes first?
Reflect.
Reflect, as we said.
As we just said.
Yes. Purpose or productivity? What drives people on?
Purpose.
As we discussed. One interesting question, ma'am. If you were to give a TEDx talk, who would you give it to? What would your audience be, and what would be the topic?
I will give it to Gen Z, as I'm talking to a Gen Z right now.
I think you will be really good at it. I believe so.
No, okay, yeah. So it will be to the Gen Z, because I see there's a lot of potential that this generation brings in. There's a lot of energy which this generation brings in, and I think my topic will be more about marrying the energy and the potential of this generation to what is needed in the corporate. So something from the college days to coming to the corporate, and how can that marriage happen much more seamlessly.
Sign me up, ma'am. I will definitely listen to that talk. With that, we come to this wonderful episode of HR Today Leadership Insights, a podcast series, and we have with us Ms. Ruchi Mago, who was fabulous and fantastic. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing time from a busy schedule. I'm sure people who will be listening will gain some perspective, some insights, some knowledge, and more some wisdom from what you just said.
My pleasure. I completely enjoyed speaking to you, and I love the questions that you had. It was very enriching for me. I mean, my 20% of learning that you learn from experiences and others. So it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.